All right, guys, I'm back, and we need to talk, but not about politics. This isn't necessarily even a left versus right issue, but what I would like to talk to you about today is what happens when public trust is essentially shattered by the very people that are supposed to protect it. I just watched Nate Friedman's video. Literally, hundreds of you text, emailed, called me in regards to this video. I just watched it. It's in its entirety. And I want to give you some of the back end story of what's going on here. In case you haven't watched it, I'll link it. It's really, really good. But what's happening right now in Massachusetts isn't just embarrassing. It's really criminal. And what's worse is that we were sold a package of goods that was supposed to be labeled as compassion, if you want to call it that. And at the center of this disaster are hotels, and these were the Healy hotels, which were basically converted into long-term shelters for illegal immigrants under the banner of emergency relief. But what's happening now is these shelters aren't just in or a shelter in the traditional sense. What's happening now is they are effectively multi-million-dollar tax-funded programs that are run through private nonprofits with almost zero public oversight. So really, what started as a temporary help has morphed into this permanent side hustle or hustle in general, paid for by the taxpayers, both you and I. Here's how this worked. The state partnered with local nonprofits, which are organizations that on paper exist to serve the vulnerable. But once you start to look closer, as Nate did, you'll find out that there are some executives making over $400,000 a year. And these staffs that they are employing, they are drawing up towards of like six-figure salaries, again, directly billed to the taxpayer. What's even more concerning about this is these nonprofits are getting these no-bid contracts with the state. So that means that there's absolutely no competition, there's no scrutiny, and there's no transparency. And when Nick went out and asked questions, literally everyone suddenly could not talk. You know, there's even one point of the video, in the beginning of the video, where he enters the first hotel and he starts to interview somebody that's walking through. They just got out of the elevator or whatnot. And the gentleman that's part of the security, you could see his face. So the kid is saying that he can't talk about anything. And as soon as he says that, the person or the security guard watching him, he gets this satisfied look on his face. It's absolutely ridiculous because these people are being programmed to say these type of answers, okay? That they can't answer any questions. It's really infuriating, to be honest. And all of the site directors, the security, even the CEOs of these organizations, they are all in on this. And it seems like it's not that they don't know, it's that they don't want you to know. That's what's going on here. But here's part of what I think is a potentially future opportunity that is currently happening in the Healy hotels, okay? The other story is on even more betrayal. And this comes after the Healy hotels or after these shelters. And I covered this before. It's a company named Homebase. We've talked about this. They are a rent assistance program that takes this scandal from outrageous to completely unacceptable, because Homebase was originally designed to prevent homelessness, especially for struggling families already living in Massachusetts. It was supposed to help the citizens facing eviction or some levels of financial hardship, but now it's being used as this political pipeline by gaslighting the residents of Massachusetts into thinking that illegal immigrants are leaving the shelters, which on one hand is true. But on the other hand, they are just putting them in a position that they are getting permanent housing on your tax dollars again. And everybody only wants to report about that the numbers are going down in the shelters, but what they're not telling you is that the numbers are going up in terms of permanent housing. And what that means is it is still taxpayer dollars that is funding these programs. These people aren't leaving the state. So in theory, what's happening here is illegal immigrants that were housed in these Healy hotels under emergency terms are now being permanently placed into taxpayer-funded apartments courtesy of Homebase, quietly and strategically. Think of it like this. We have veterans that serve this country that are being charged nightly fees at these hotels, at these shelters. We have residents of Massachusetts that have been on the affordable housing waitlist for years, while simultaneously there are thousands of people that basically have the easy pass from a hotel room for free now to an apartment, completely, fully subsidized by us, simply because they arrived under the right political conditions. That is what's going on here. And this isn't about helping the homeless. It's really about expanding dependency on a system we pay for and in turn locking in future votes. I am telling you, that is what this is about. Why do you think there are so many of these nonprofits that are donating back to people like Maura Healey? On one hand, or I should say, one hand is feeding the other while making sure the system never runs out of people to serve, these crazy budgets to expand, and contracts to renew. And it's all happening all without any input from the public that's footing the bill. Absolutely no news station is covering this. This is important news that people want to hear about. This is of the utmost important news because they are taking your money, okay? They are taking your money. When you think about it, this is really a bait and switch, and it's a bait and switch on an industrial level. I often talk about emotional manipulation or weaponizing emotion. This is weaponizing emotion to profit based on that weaponization. This is crazy to me. We were told this was a humanitarian crisis. We were told it was temporary. But let's be honest here. Nothing about this is temporary. The shelters are not closing and the money is not stopping. And the politicians benefiting from this arrangement have every incentive to keep it running as long as humanly possible. You know, the worst part is this is all being done in your name. They say it's what the people want. They use words like equity, compassion, and justice to hide what's really going on. This is a shell game where public funds are quietly funneled to connected friends, political donors, and nonprofits with zero transparency. It's unbelievable to me. And I'll call it like it is, guys. We are being gaslit on a statewide level. That's what's happening. Ask any question and you're labeled as heartless, right? You're suddenly labeled as heartless. You're being told that you don't understand the complexities. But let me make one thing clear here. Understanding what's going on does not make you cruel. It makes you concerned. So, some real numbers based on some of the information from the video, and a lot of this stuff we know we've talked about before. We're expected to spend another $1 billion this fiscal year on the migrant crisis alone. That's more than the budgets of some small cities. And that is what is happening in our backyard. It's more than what we are spending on schools, on addiction services, which Maura Healey seems to be supposed to be this hero of like mental health. And also, it's money that's not going towards local infrastructures. There's so many towns throughout Massachusetts that are behind on their budget. Why can't the state step in and help these towns? It's really despicable. And it's all happening behind closed doors. Nate even tried finding, when he was looking through these tax records and statements, he was looking for line items in the budget that breaks it down. And of course, these things are non-existent. So think of it this way. While you're working overtime, living with roommates, paying inflated rents, buying overpriced groceries, paying for overpriced energy, and trying to make sense of your own future, there's people here who have never paid into the system that are currently receiving more from it than you do. Rent, food, transportation, and in some cases, even legal aid, all provided by organizations that refuse to show how they are spending your public funds. It's unsustainable. I've been talking about this for months. It's not sustainable economically, socially, and morally. And deep down, I think everybody knows this. It's just nobody was talking about this. Everybody is thinking about this, but they're also scared to talk about it. This is solely why I believe Homebase is the next, or should be, the next in line that needs the same level of serious investigation. Our state's budget keeps expanding. Mara keeps trying to tax every and anything she can. And I think it's solely because of the money that is being poured out into this illegal immigration crisis. I think this is the root of the problem. You know, when you really think about this, what's even worse is that you could think of it this way, like bigger picture. Is this a model that is being used, right? Public money to enrich private interests under the guise of compassion? It's when you think about it, it's not just a Massachusetts issue. Is this, or are we a test case for potential blueprint? Is this strategy going to go unchallenged throughout the country? It could be coming to a city near you. And in many cases, it already has. They're taking our money. That's what's happening here. And they're not spending our tax dollars into resources that we need. You could call it selfish. You could say whatever you want. But the fact is, this isn't selfishness. This is about priorities. When your own citizens, working families, seniors, veterans are struggling to make a living, this is not progress to effectively subsidize long-term housing for people who arrived yesterday. It's backwards and it's broken. It's also theft, by the way. Charity starts at home. I've said that before. Charity starts at home, period. And make no mistake, Homebase has been co-opted. What began as a lifeline for locals has become a launch pad for political optics. You know, look at how many people were helped out. What were the costs? And who's keeping count? They only show you numbers on charts that are going down in the emergency shelter system. But what they're not talking about is where these people are going. And it's through Homebase. The only way this could potentially end is if the public gets loud. We should demand audits on these things. We should demand contracts be made visible. And we should force the question no one in power wants to answer, which is, where is our money going? Because here's the truth. They're trying to hide the truth. This isn't generosity. It's profiteering in the same name of progress. So really, this has got to stop, guys. You are not crazy for asking these questions. You are not selfish for asking these questions. And you are not a villain for wanting transparency and accountability. And you're also not wrong for saying enough is enough, by the way, because I've certainly had enough. I don't know about you. I think it's time to shut down these secret deals and hold every nonprofit receiving public dollars to the same standards we hold each other or our schools and our police. That's it. It's time to return programs like Homebase to the people it was actually built for. Residents of this state, citizens who have paid in, people who are struggling, that are being ignored while thousands upon thousands of people are quietly being redirected elsewhere. And I can promise you this, it doesn't end at the hotels. And this story is really just getting started. This is the tip of the iceberg here. And I hope you will give Nate's video a watch. It is very informative. I was going to do some commentating on that video, but I figured just putting this out there and trying to provide some substance to what's going on here, and also how these people are going from the shelter into home base, then simultaneously into permanent housing, is also costing us money. And that requires future investigation. And maybe it's something that him and I could collaborate on in the future. But anyway, I'm going to leave a link to his video below. It's infuriating to watch. Just a warning and potential spoiler. It is very infuriating to watch. Anyway, that's it for today's video, guys. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.